Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. World Rapid and Blitz, fascinating tournament. Every year, it's a great tournament, and this year we saw why champions are champions. I've got one game to show you, and then we're going to be talking in a grander context of everything that's going on. So we've got Alexandra Goryachkina with the white pieces against Humpy Koneru, who is the reigning World Rapid Champion in the women's section. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight to F6, and we've got Knight takes E4. Knight takes E4. You don't often see that in the Petrov. You don't often see the mirror image capture. We get Queen E2, Queen E7, Queen takes E4, and now D6. D4, D takes, Knight to C6, Knight to C3, and the queens get traded, and now we go for Knight to B5. Check, Bishop blocks. We get this, forcing the king to take D2, and now King to D8. Both sides have lost the right to castle. All of this is theory. Rook E1, Knight D7, H4, Knight to C5, Rook to E5, Knight D7, Rook to G5, G6, Bishop to C4, F6, Rook G3, Knight E5, Bishop drops back, and now Bishop to D7, and now Knight to C3. The players have spent some time on the last few moves, but there's nothing out of the ordinary, I don't think. Neither side can castle, so black will most probably put the bishop on the long diagonal and develop the rooks and get the king to some relative safety. So we get C6, Knight to E4, Rook to F8, defends the pawn, but probably not the most accurate way. Goryachkina has a slight advantage. We get F4, Knight to G4, Knight to C5, Bishop F5. Check. King goes over to C7, Knight back to C5, now Rook A8 check. King C8, King C1 rather, and now Rook Fe8. Rook F1 is a mistake, and now the rook infiltrates, and Humpy Koneru has seized the advantage. Now we're getting into time scramble. Both players under 2 minutes on the clock. Rook to C3, Knight E3, which is the perfect move, the move you have to play. You have to get Rook to H1 on the board. Knight takes G2. And now Knight A6 check is a mistake, and Humpy Koneru is better after King B6. Knight does retreat to B4, but I can play Bishop to E4, and you are running into too many problems. Oh my gosh, that is horrible. What is that? Horrible insect. Anyway, Bishop to C4, Rook to F2, a slight inaccuracy, Rook to B3, King C5, and her king just marches into the board. We don't worry too much about the pawns exchanging. Eventually we get to this position, and we can trade off the pawns. And now black has got a pass pawn, and that pass pawn is just running down the board. We can sacrifice the knight, Rook to H1. Rook to H1 works because if you take this, what you get is this skewer. And the knight can't defend because the other rook can take. It's protected. So you get this skewer, and even that, okay, king went the wrong way. What do you have to do? You have to play King D7. Why? Because after takes, there's G3. And the rook doesn't get back in time, so you probably have to play what? Rook takes. And no, you can't because there's the fork. So you live and you learn. So Rook to H1, beautiful move. Knight to H3 defends that file, but now I can play B5. Rook to C8, C3, D4. And now the players show their quality. With limited time on the clock, we get Rook D1, the best move. Rook F1, sacrificing the rook. Kind of. If you take my rook, I take your rook. So Rook D3. Rook takes C3. We sacrifice the rook again. Because it would be takes, and takes, probably. Now, in all likelihood, Rook takes C3 is what's played. But there's Rook takes D1 check, which comes in first. King takes D1, and now D takes C3. And we get to this endgame where black is surely winning. B6. King C6. Knight B4. King takes B6, a mistake. Why? Knight D5 check. And what happens is I pick up this pawn, and I'm just in time to get here. And I can get in front of the pawn, and I will be able to sacrifice the knight for the pawn with the check, and pick it up on G2 and get the draw. Okay, now let's change tabs so we can look at it in the grand context. Why am I talking about the grand context? Well, that game was important. It was the final round of the day, the 8th round. And it means that Humpy Koneru is tied for first place with Zhu Jiner. Now, she had an interesting day. Obviously, she went 4-0 yesterday. She had 3 draws today, Zhu Jiner. She drew against Nino Bachfali. She drew against Mariya Musachuk. And only in the final round did she defeat Divya Deshmukh, having drawn Alexandra Goryachkina in round 5. Goryachkina, after playing very well yesterday, is tied for second place with a lot of players on 6 points. So it is still very much open, but she sits third, so she's got the best tiebreak chances. I mean, if you look at all the players tied on 6, you've got Nino, you've got Lei Tingjie, you've got Harika Dronvali, you've got FIDE Master Yining Chen, who I just want to talk about for a moment. Firstly, FIDE Master, 2143. She's gaining 167 rating points so far. 6-7. She lost to Irina Krush in round 1. She then defeated Elaine Robers. She then defeated Lalin Zhang. She then defeated Jennifer Yu. She then drew Paulina Shivola. She then won against International Master Vatika Agarwal. She then defeated Alexandra Konstanuk before drawing against Harika Dronvali in the final round. And tomorrow she will play Katerina Lagno. She is having a fantastic tournament so far. Absolutely fantastic. Katerina Lagno, of course, they're on 6 points, as is quite a few players. It is very much open, so that's why I want to take you here. I think it's here. Yes, it is. Okay, this was the open section. The women's predictions for tomorrow. Now, Alexandra Goryachkina, who's currently in 3rd place, is given the highest winning probability of 20.18%. Then it's Humpy Koneru on 18.93. Then it's Lei Tingjie, and then it is Zhu Jiner. Then Katerina Lagno is on 8%, 5% for Tan Zhongyi, 5% for Mariya Musachuk, 5% for Harika Dronvali, 2% for Alexandra Konstanuk, who, by the way, where is she in the standings? Konstanuk. She's in 17th. She's on 5.5. She's a whole point behind. Tan Zhongyi is on 5.5. Some of these players, I don't understand. They're using the ratings because they're rapid ratings and so on and so forth. Like the player I just mentioned, the FIDE Master, she's not even here. She's half a point behind the leaders and in fantastic form. So that is the current state of affairs after day 2 of the women's rapid and blitz. Let me know who you think is going to win tomorrow in the comments down below.